You get these moments in life when you feel a sense of despair that cannot be explained. Your ego struggles to make sense of what's happening, but it just feels like you're stuck and it's only getting more intense. It feels as if the whole density of the material world is crushing your soul. It's as if gravity is pulling you down into a deep pit. Your loved ones might be telling you it's just an existential crisis and it will go away, but you know it's more than that. It's the dark night of your soul, and it's not easy to deal with. This video is about how the dark night of the soul teaches you a great lesson about the joy of being alive, but only if you're willing to let go and embrace your true essence. St. John of the Cross says, "Faith is a dark night for man, but in this very way it gives him light." This idea, expressed by St. John of the Cross, resonates with the essence of what the alchemical process of self-improvement and growth is really about. To truly experience true happiness, you must first acquaint yourself with the depths of despair. St. John of the Cross was a mystic and poet of the 16th century who wrote about the spiritual dark state in his poem, Dark Night of the Soul. He explores the soul's transformative journey through darkness toward spiritual illumination. T.S. Eliot, the great 20th century American poet, called St. John the greatest psychologist of all European mystics because of how profound his writings are. St. John says,
"In general, the soul makes greater progress when it least thinks so, most frequently when it imagines that it is losing. Having never before experienced the present novelty which dazzles it and disturbs its former habits, it considers itself as losing, rather than as gaining ground, when it sees itself lost in a place it once knew, and in which it delighted, traveling by a road it knows not, and in which it has no pleasure."
But why do we, as spiritual seekers, find ourselves in the dark night of the soul? As we tread the path of spiritual growth, traversing the narrow way of divinity, we inevitably encounter moments of imbalance and discord. These might be triggered by all sorts of external events that hit us all of a sudden and throw us into that state. These might be traumatic events or great losses. It's in these very moments of vulnerability that the dark night emerges as a balancing force, a purging fire that reveals the soul's true essence. At times, we may question our sanity and wonder if we are really truly on the right path, which is why it's like walking on a thin line. From a psychological paradigm, the teachings of Carl Jung are the best go-to. Jung talked a lot about the individuation process, which is the process of becoming our authentic selves by integrating both conscious and unconscious aspects of our psyche. During the dark night of the soul, we experience profound introspection and confront unresolved conflicts and suppressed emotions. This period of facing our own shadow acts as a catalyst for this transformative process. It's a period of introspection that makes us more introverted. The best thing we can do is to seek solitude. The dark night of the soul requires us to venture into the shadow realm, which is that part of the psyche that projects reality for us, sometimes in a distorted way. The ego and the shadow play a game of hide and seek, and whenever the shadow wins over the ego, it feels like an ego death. It requires us to let go of something in ourselves, or accept a new mode of existence. The more the ego refuses to surrender, the more resistance that builds up until we no longer have an option other than letting go. An alchemical perspective adds another layer of understanding to this odyssey of the soul. Alchemy seeks to transmute base substances into their purest form, much like turning lead into gold. The dark night corresponds to the negrito phase, where old aspects of ourselves dissolve and we experience a metaphorical putrefaction. The chaos and discomfort we feel during this phase are akin to the alchemical process of purification. As we confront our shadows during the dark night, we enter the coniunctio phase, where opposites unite and are integrated within us. This inner alchemical process symbolizes our death and rebirth, where the false self dies and the true essence of our being, the gold within, is revealed. St. John of the Cross describes it as a union with the beloved, which is the higher self. In this secret union, the lover is transformed into the beloved, and a profound bond is forged between the ego and the self. That's what the individuation process aims to achieve. However, this is all hard for the ego to handle, which is the part of us that clings to identity, attachments, and the illusion of control. The ego refuses to let go, which is what makes us feel trapped. It's the ego's resistance that makes the dark night of the soul more unpleasant than it should be. We've been programmed by society to perceive any sign of psychic discomfort as an illness that needs to be treated, in other words, controlled. That's how the dense programming we've been exposed to throughout our lives hinders our spiritual growth. We are a left-brain dominant society that values logic, reason, and material success over the deeper aspects of the human experience. As a result, we often neglect the spiritual dimension of our existence, dismissing it as mere superstition or wishful thinking. That's when the right brain takes over, driving us to explore the realms of intuition, creativity, and spiritual insight that lies dormant within. The right brain is the gateway to the soul, and it speaks to us in mystic whispers, dreams, and symbols that can only be understood when we quiet the noise of the logical mind. The dark night of the soul challenges the dense ego programming by plunging us into the depths of our being, forcing us to confront the aspects of ourselves that we've been avoiding and suppressing. As the night unfolds, the ego's resistance intensifies, desperately trying to cling to its familiar patterns and beliefs. The ego fears the dissolution that comes with embracing the unknown, the uncharted territory of the soul. It sees the dark night as a threat to its existence. Yet, the very discomfort and struggle that the ego resists are the gateways to transformation and growth. The soul's journey through the dark night is not about annihilating the ego, but rather transcending its limitations. And despite our best efforts, self-purification is incomplete without divine guidance. St. John of the Cross says, "No matter how much individuals do through their own efforts, they cannot actively purify themselves enough to be disposed in the least degree for the divine union of the perfection of love. God must take over and purge them in that fire that is dark for them." In the midst of darkness, it's God who takes over, sweeping away the impurities and the transformative fire that appears dark to us. This sacred process readies the soul for the divine union of love. As we move through the dark night, you find solace in knowing that countless souls have journeyed through this inner landscape before. The wisdom of spiritual seekers, mystics, and sages from various traditions serves as beacons of light in the darkness that helps you in your path. Ultimately, the dark night of a soul is a sacred passage, a rite of initiation into the depths of our being. It leads us to an expanded sense of self, where we no longer identify solely with the ego, but recognize ourselves as both human and divine. As we emerge from the darkness, transformed and reborn, we bring back the gifts of wisdom and love to share with our loved ones. We become torchbearers, illuminating the path for others who may embark on their own journey through the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul serves as a profound teacher. Its lessons, though enigmatic, bear the key to spiritual growth and self-awareness. Yet, the encounter with the dark night remains a personal and private experience, an inner journey into the depths of your own soul. Each of us embarks upon a unique path, finding solace in the hidden revelations that lie within. It is a sacred secret, known only to the one who's experiencing it. The paradox of darkness and light emerges, and the soul emerges with newfound clarity. All the despair becomes meaningful. You become grateful for everything that happened during the dark night because it made you who you are. And if you're still feeling like you're still in that dark place, you have to cultivate gratefulness, because in the depths of the dark night, the higher self will lead you towards a state of being that is both safe and dark, a sanctuary for growth and spiritual development. At the end of this mysterious dark tunnel, the soul embraces the lessons offered by the divine light and its innermost essence. You emerge with a profound understanding, a deeper connection to the divine, and an appreciation for the delicate balance of darkness and light in life's intricate dance. If you liked this video, share your positive energy with us by supporting the channel.